What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Daily Groomer podcast, where we interview grooming professionals to share their stories, tips, tricks, everything they've done to make their lives a success in the grooming industry. I am joined here with a beautiful woman. She has founded multiple entrepreneurial businesses, loves sharing her experiences through education and mentorship. She's honed her education and experience over the last 2 decades, culminating in her nationwide mentor program for grooming business owners. Everybody give a warm welcome to Dara Forleo. Dara, did I say your last name right? That's a very interesting one.
It's actually Dara Forleo.
I mean, I missed on both aspects there. I'm so sorry, Dara. Thank you so much for correcting me. At least we're getting that out of the way early.
I've gotten worse.
Makes me feel better. All right, well, Dara, how did I do on the intro? Tell me what I missed. Give us some more color here on who you are.
I, that's it. Well, I've been in the industry for a long time. I started back in the mid 90s, and just have worked my way through and up. It's
Okay.
a lot of steps, a lot of support from family and friends and other mentors that I have worked with and
Sure.
gone forward. So I've
Sure.
taken small shop into a larger shop, into multiple shops, into now a grooming academy. And the school started as just a in-person and the hands-on training, and now we're a global campus. So we have multiple online diplomas and multiple online opportunities for continuing education and career advancement and personal growth and career growth for groomers and pet stylists. I will say we try to get away from using the term groomer and focus our students on the stylist aspect, because it's more than a haircut.
And tell me, I mean, obviously, I'm sure with the added context, we'll get to how you got there, but I'm sure, I mean, I'm curious right away. Differentiate the two for us real quick. Pet stylist for versus dog groomer.
You know, it's controversial. There's a lot of people, and I'm not trying to throw anybody out there, but I would say a stylist is someone who's really growing themselves. They're learning more, they're taking continuing education, they're doing everything they can to better themselves. They look at the pet as a canvas and a masterpiece. Every animal gets treated differently than the last because they're individuals, and they just look at the whole picture. They take everything into consideration. Owners, the way they present themselves. I think there's with it, the professionalism. So
I love that. I love that. I mean, and I want to dive 100 directions with that. But before we get there, tell me, I mean, let's spend a brief segment here for me and for the audience members. You said, I mean, you've run the gauntlet here. You've gone from, single store to single store owner to multi-store owner, now to owning a academy for pet stylists, right? So walk us through in, a brief elevator pitch here. How'd you get into grooming, and how did you get that first grooming job? Sorry, let's
that's
maybe
okay.
change up our pet stylist job.
Pet stylist. Well, back in the day, I would say I was a groomer, but horses actually. Lived in Kentucky, and I competed at a national level with my Arabian, and one of the girls my age that I used to be a competitor against, our horses were competitive, and we were competitive against each other. And it was always, when we'd line up, we'd banter. And it was, well, I do this and I do that and I have this. And then one day she said, well, my dad bought me a grooming shop. And I was like, oh, what? And she was like, yeah, my dad bought me. I went to grooming school. And I was like, well, what is that? And so we completely blew the ribbon ceremony, and I ended up working for her And that's how I got into it. So
You're
years.
kidding. That's
Mhm.
insane. So you got into the world of pet grooming because of a banter, some friendly banter with a competitor in equestrian. That is so cool.
Yep. So that I did that, and while I was in college, I groomed instead of working other jobs. But my whole degree is based around the thoroughbred racing industry, and I did a lot on that. I worked at Churchill Downs, and so my part-time job was always pet grooming in the afternoons after I got off early mornings at the track, and I'd work
I
the
mean, that's
afternoons, and then I went to school in the evenings.
that's insane. And tell me, I mean, what are the similarities between thoroughbred, grooming, styling, etc., and let's call it, smaller pets. I don't know exactly how you classify the difference there, but you know what I
Well,
mean. Dogs versus horses.
yeah,
What's kind of the similarities and differences?
I wasn't a groom, I was a rider. So I
Okay.
rode. And the grooms did it. It was a lot more. Racing is that's a whole other can of worms. So we don't have to go down that way. But it just they for me it was I could do what I was able to work at the track and still maintain that grooming. And I was actually exiting the grooming industry, pet grooming, to work full time at Churchill Downs and to be there full time. Um, I was young, got married, and I ended up with moving to New Hampshire, and there's no real horse industry in New Hampshire. So I actually fell full face into full-time pet grooming. And I knew that after working for so many and being on my own, I just wanted to, I prefer, I'm just business. I love the business. I love just the business side of things. So it made sense to not work for somebody else. It made sense for me to develop myself and go the business route. And that's the education part wise, going through and getting a bachelor's degree in business, it just falls into place. So, and
Okay.
it's taken a long time to be able to, the one thing, people who I think I I'm business 100%, and I prefer it that way. I love what I do behind the scenes for the school and maintaining the state requirements and our oh my gosh, I don't even know. I just love the business side of it. I like the meetings. I like the growth of it. I love being able to work on growing the business versus working in the business.
No, I love that. And honestly, let's dive a little bit more into that because I feel like in my perspective, interviewing a lot of salon owners currently, there's two major milestones that I've been able to pull away from friends here, right? The first is, can a pet stylist take off their pet stylist hat and put on their business owner hat? And you don't throw away that pet stylist hat, obviously. It's wearing both at the same time. But that is the first milestone is someone able to successfully transition from pet stylist to business owner?
Mhm.
That second one that I think is even more important and less talked about because it's further down the road is, can someone transition from working in the business to on the business? That is the only way to get out of the business. And I actually had a conversation last week with Samantha Paulia. I'm not sure if you're familiar
Mhm.
with her, but we went very deep into how to set yourself up for
Mhm.
success to eventually exit your business. But I'm very curious because you called that out as not only a passion, but something that you've identified as extremely important among the business side of pet styling. Talk to me a little bit about, how did you come to that realization? Obviously, you like to do it, but in your business journey, how did you come to the realization that that is something that's important for me to do, to step out of the pet stylist shell into the business owner shell so I can actually grow this business?
It's a tough step to take. It's a hard step to take, but it's the only way the business can grow. It's if you're staying in it, you can only go so far. So you have to be able to take those steps, and you have to be able to be flexible and know when the time is right to do it. And it's setting the intent. I think that's one thing, because you can only groom so many dogs. Your employees can only groom so many dogs, and your body can only do it for so long. So you have to be thinking. I mean, I think 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. I think 1 year, 3 year, 5 year. And I'm 5 years from now today. I don't stay in the today, because you have to be 10 steps ahead of everyone else.
I love that. So I think something that'd be cool to do, and I'm curious your response to this. Let's run through a how to know if you're working in the business or on the business. Let's run through like a quick checklist here. What does the characteristic or the character look like of someone that's working in their business?
You're you're in the daily operations. You have to be there all the time, and you are probably still grooming 4 or 5 dogs a day yourself, and maybe not pulling the income that your other employees are pulling. You have to be there every day, and you worry about leaving and not being there.
Right. So you might worry about a sick day. You might worry about, your clientele, your employees. You probably are making less than your employees, because you're there working as a pet stylist, not as a business owner.
Right.
Now let's go to the other side. What
Mhm.
are strong signs that you have made that switch, maybe even subconsciously, to business owner versus working in the business?
Every time you give up a little bit more control, and you have the person and the people in place to be able to take that control and do it without you needing to be active in it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, and I feel like those are both, you should be able to identify which one of those you're in,
Yep.
and obviously there's some, clarity on how to get to each of the or how to get to work on the business instead of in. But I'm curious, you mentioned timing as something that's extremely important. How do you know if it's the right time to pull yourself out to work on the business, not in the business?
When you set the intent, oh, this is what I want, and you have goals and you have deadlines, and you do the successful execution of it.
Okay, so
A business can't grow without having goals, and people in your business and your employees and your team can't grow without having goals. We've all got to be on the same page in the development of it. It's taken a long time, because there's not really any sorry, my dogs are barking. Dad just got home. There's not a lot of education on that, and you have to seek outside of the industry to really find those resources.
and those resources you're referring to are goals and like value
Resources
setting.
being other mentorships outside of the industry.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, obviously, you've made this identification, which is why it's almost your life's work right now to do that. How did you come to this realization that, hey, we need to actually look outside of the industry to find these business resources, not within?
Well, because there's a whole other world of business out there, and I still do entrepreneurship courses. I still do continuing education myself. I have mentors that I work with. I have other business consultants that I work with. You can only go as far as you yourself know. So to take it to the next level, you have to have the next level people.
And
And
how do you find those people?
networking, I go to I have other organizations that I work with. I do other training, and it started with SCORE chapters. Every community has a SCORE chapter, and that's free resources and free guiding. The small business the Small Business Association, they have courses and online. I work with other colleges that I do their business programs, and they have all kinds of stuff. There's so much stuff out there. I've taken courses at Yale. I've taken courses at Babson. I've taken courses at some, pretty big name schools. So you have to continue to up your game. You just can't not have that. So a business coach is worth everything. And you want to make sure that when you're working with a business coach, that they are themselves a coach and have the credentials to back it.
I love that. I mean, and you are a business baller. I'm curious. There's tons of resources out there, right? And
Yep.
obviously, not only is it hard to identify that you need to seek out other resources, but it's hard to really navigate through the noise to
Mhm.
find the signals of the resources that you should be paying attention to, especially when you have a full-time job or you have a full-time business running a pet salon. I'm
Mhm.
curious, you run a school. What have you identified is important, and we can just do this thematically, um, for specifically pet stylist salon owners? What is important that they either seem to lack or need to know to successfully run their business?
There's always that saying, you have to spend money to make money. It's kind of an old, but you need to invest in yourself, because your business isn't going to go anywhere unless you invest in yourself. And I think a lot of people get into the business ownership in our industry because they've worked for somebody and they see it being done and they go, I can do it better. I can do it better. And it always looks good. The grass is always greener on the other side, right? But you don't realize when you do go into opening your business and starting it, you've got to give 140%. You've got to be able to put aside and give up a part of yourself to make that happen. And I think a lot of people forget, and they just think that it's going to do it itself. Um, I don't I don't do that. I always try to put myself out there, and always I think there's a lot of trying to think about how to articulate it right, but there's always, it sounds bad, but when you give up yourself, you give up that for a period of time to make it grow and get it to an area that you can then start cultivating it. That first 1 to 5 years is so crucial for the success of your business, that, and most places, 20%, 30% close and fail in their first year. They don't even make it to their first year.
Well,
So,
let's talk about practicality of that, maybe on a minor scale here. If I'm a new business owner and I either just started a pet salon or want to open a pet salon, I hear that number, 30% fail within their first year. Are there any common patterns that you've seen of the ones that make it past the first year? Obviously, it sounds like mentorship and coaching is extremely important, but practically, what should I focus on to make it past this first year?
having a business plan. You can't not have a business plan.
So let's walk into that. That seems like a very foreign concept here in the industry right now. What is a business plan,
What
and
is a business plan?
what
Yeah,
is that? Walk us through
to
that.
show up at a bank and go, I want to take out a loan and I'm going to start this great business. They're going to be like, good for you. Oh, you want to get into dog grooming? Great. That's nice. You gotta have, you gotta have your shit together. Like, you have to be able to present, and unless you're unless you have great deep pockets yourself, which there are people out there that do. It's still, there's still those hobby people out there that love this and get into it and want to start their own. Um, But you have to have a business plan. And if you don't have that business plan, then you don't have a roadmap to go get from A to B and then B to C and C to D. It snowballs. So you've got to have your roadmap, and it doesn't have to be set in stone. You've got to be able to take that and be flexible with it, because you're going to have speed bumps and you're going to have, you're going to have the setbacks, and you got to be able to make quick, fast decisions. And if your brain isn't programmed to do that, you're just going to set yourself up for failure.
Have you reviewed have you reviewed business plans for prospective salon owners? And if so, I'm curious, what does a good business plan look like versus a bad one? And we don't have to go, super detailed, but just high level.
I mean, I do a lot more outside of the industry. So I work with other entrepreneurs and other trades. I just don't focus in the grooming industry.
Well, that's even better. Like what does, holistically, and someone working in tech or someone working in marketing, what does a good business plan all around look like versus a bad? Where do the bad ones miss the mark?
Just not having your research. You have to make sure that your research is done and it's done properly. You've got to have your finances in order. And you have to make sure that, because they're going to want to see your financials, whether you're already an owner or you're starting. If you don't have that in place, that's your break right there. If your financials aren't in order, you really don't have any business running a business. I mean, that's the harsh reality of it.
No, that makes sense. So, I mean, what's a good?
If you can't operate your own personal finances, there's a problem.
Right. I mean, maybe you shouldn't be stepping into the world of business quite yet then. I'm curious, if someone wanted to, hey, I'm a great pet stylist. I want to own my own salon. But I've just never been exposed to budgeting or finance or any of those sort of scary numbers, right? What can I do to prepare myself to be a business owner so that my business is ready?
Community college.
Okay, so community college seems to be the best. Your best. Okay, got it.
You should really take some courses and get your feet wet and make sure that that's where you want to go. There's I hear a lot when I'm out and in our industry, and people saying, "Oh, I hate the paperwork side of it. I hate doing that." That's your main job. I think that's what you're supposed to do when you're working in your business. You should be doing all the things to know every facet of that business. I mean, now, yeah, I have an accountant, I have a bookkeeper, I've got marketing specialists, we've got Google Analytics. We have people that do everything, because not one person can do everything in their business. But as you start growing, you put these other people into place of the areas that you don't want to do. And that starts your success rate. The more you can delegate out, the better.
And that's what, reflecting back to our original question in this conversation, switching from working inside the business to outside is almost the speed and the success rate of your delegation, right? How much can I delegate, a little bit at a time to pull myself out of this business?
Mhm.
I'm curious, you've obviously taken courses at some pretty prestigious universities. Babson alone is, very well known for entrepreneurship. I'm very curious, what are some common patterns that you've noticed outside of the grooming industry that most pet stylists or pet salon business owners miss the mark on?
Say that one more time.
Yes. So outside, let's assume you're looking at, you're reviewing a software entrepreneur's business plan, or even looking at their current business today, versus a grooming salon owner. There must be some common themes that holistically the entire industry seems to miss when it comes to owning a business. Do any of those come to mind?
So when you're trying, I think the research part of it comes into play.
And when you say research, you mean like understanding your market landscape?
Understanding when you go for your plan and you start writing your business plan, the key is what is making you be different than everybody else, and how are you setting yourself apart.
Right, that makes sense. So it could be pricing, maybe marketing, maybe the area in general, or the type of dogs that you're taking care of. It could be any of those sort of things.
Yeah,
Got it.
I think what happens is it's kind of that you start from you have to start at the bottom and build your foundation versus I'm going to do this at the top and then work your way back down. And I think when you're working backwards, that's one of the things, because people tend to look and see, oh, I'm going to open my own business. And I it's great. Everybody should. I mean, it's what runs this country and what we are. It's corporates aren't the big. It's the small and mostly micro businesses are the biggest ones. But if you're not starting at your foundation and getting that built successfully strong, your house is going to crumble. You've got to have that concrete first. So if you don't, that's the biggest, where they just jump in and don't have that
Understand.
foundation built.
Love that. And it seems to me that you are citing research is the base of that foundation.
Research is, you've got to know every single person that is in your area, and maybe not even looking just at your own industry. We're in the service industry. Look at restaurants, look at other service providers and what they are doing and how they are doing it. You've got to look outside of the industry. So I think that's one thing that I can do is I'm on the outside looking in, and I take
No,
from the outside and pull in and pull it in.
I love that. There seems to be this common theme with you that you're like great businesses are built around us. We can build great businesses in this industry by watching what they're doing and looking what they're doing and copying some of their strategies. I'm
Yeah.
sure that this has had a great influence on what you teach at Whole Pet Grooming Academy. I'm curious, what are some of these core, business themes that you guys tend to focus on at the academy?
At the academy, most of our students on the floor when they come through, it's really we're building them their foundation. They come back for the business after or do more one-on-ones with me, but it's really we're teaching them to be more of an informed professional, I would say. We want them leaving and being and they're our showcase. So when they leave and know the difference and of an employee versus a 1099 and what their value is when they leave and where they should be going, it just sets them up for success right away. So we try to give not that necessarily the business side of it, but the foundational structure of becoming and working in the industry. What kind of person they are, we really watch that and try to set them up with companies that they're going to relate to or other business owners that are going to relate with them personally, instead of setting up and letting them go be free and have fun. We'll see you next Tuesday, kind of a thing. So we really stay active in that
That makes
from
sense.
start to continuing after their graduation.
And why do you think it's important to make sure they have that aspect instead of giving them all of the business stuff up at once? Why do you think it's important to lay the foundation with them?
Well, they got to understand the industry they're getting into. And a lot of people get into it without really understanding the industry itself. So you have to have, so that again, there's so much out there on social media and so many people are out there just throwing out advice and guidance, and people in our industry look right towards social media for their main source of everything. And we don't want our students really doing that because you don't know who and what you're getting it from.
That makes sense. One thing that may or may not, be taught in that initial foundation are a little segment here that I want to do called, maybe like fast tips.
Mhm.
Fast tips. Let's assume that I'm a salon owner, right? You have experience not only with outside business, but in the salon business as well. And so let's assume I'm a salon owner and I come to you through your coaching program, or even, I've gone through your foundational courses and I come to you for a one-on-one, or,
Mhm.
hey, I started my own salon. Here's some things that I'm questioning right now, where I'm going to run through these and I want to hear your advice, and feel free to let the opinions fly. So the first one that I want to come to you is a pretty controversial one. I say, Dara, how do I price? How do I price my sessions so that I can make sure my business is profitable?
Okay. My first question is, how much do you need to make per hour for your business to survive and pay the bills?
Okay. And give us some insight here for a salon owner. How would they, let's assume I don't know that. How would they work backwards into that?
You have to know all your overhead and your bills and your employees and your pay structure, and you have to know exactly how much you need to bring in to pay and cover all those bills. And then you break it down by I have it broken down to the minute.
Oh
We
my
know
gosh. Okay.
exactly how much needs to come in.
So tally up costs holistically, divide it by the amount of hours, or for your case, the amount of minutes that you're open,
However, your open hours.
right? And then do you add some sort of percentage on top? Do you add a fixed, you know,
Well, you got to put your income in there too. Make sure that your income is taken into consideration, because I think everybody forgets to do that, and that's why a lot of the shops are have issues because they forget to put their own in.
right? That makes sense. Your income is a cost to the
You
business.
have to pay yourself, and if you don't, there's what's the point?
Right. No, absolutely. Okay. So you make sure you build your own income into the cost of the business. You divide the amount by the amount of hours that you're open, and then you maybe add some sort of set percentage, maybe 10 to
I
15%
mean, you
across the
gotta
board. Or,
you can, as long as you know what your hourly income needs to be for the business, then you go, how many dogs do I need to make that hourly rate?
I love that. Yeah. Right. It's almost you have the baseline for the cost you need to meet, and you can do whatever you want above that, but you at least know to break even, I need to do X amount of dogs per
Mhm.
hour at this cost. Love that. Okay. That's a great model. It's a cost based, budgeting model there. Okay. Next question. There, I am growing so fast. I have so much demand. My books are full. What should I do? Do I need to hire? Do I need to charge more? Do I need to open another location? What should I do, Dara?
What should you do? I would say I would ask back, what do you want to do? You've
I want to make more
What are
money.
your goals? What are your desires? What do you need to do? Do you want to take in more dogs? Do you want more employees? How much headaches do you want? We'd set up goals.
Okay.
Every individual is going to have their own criteria. Some people want that other location. That's going to be a completely separate path than going and hiring somebody else. Do I need to remodel? It's easier to raise prices, but I just did that. I've been raising my prices. Well, then keep raising them. If that's working, then keep doing it and you're keeping customers. Great. I'm not a believer in booking a year or so out in advance because things happen. And if you're that tight in the schedule and you need to take a day, you don't have any place to put them. So we're of 8 to 16 weeks is what we'll pre-schedule out.
That makes sense. Okay.
It's people just sometimes need a break. Employees sometimes just need a break. So you've got to have that in mind and make sure that you're taking that into consideration. But it's setting goal paths. It's really an individual. I'm never going to tell somebody this is what you should do. The way to word it is, what do you want to do and how are we going to get you there?
Right. So it seems like that first step, no matter what, is we need to set goals, and then we always need to look relative to those goals. What decision will help us reach that?
Mhm.
Love that. Last question here in this segment. Um, Tell us.
I'm gonna answer it with a question.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure that's okay though. That means you know what you're doing. Um, okay, Dara. So I'm a salon owner. I really, really care about the quality of the dogs that we're seeing, right? And I'm more of a pet stylist than a dog groomer, right? I really care holistically. I really obviously spend the time to make sure that we're seeing quality over quantity. Now, we're growing as a salon, so I started delegating some of my roles. And one of the things I've delegated is half of my clients to my staff.
Okay.
Kind of seems like they don't care as much as I do when I'm grooming. What should we do here?
Mm, I would set goals for them. If they're not caring as much, there's a disconnect going on between you and them.
Right.
And maybe they need a break. Maybe they're looking for a little more incentives, something to make the place a little more bubbly. Um, Maybe it's as simple as buying lunch every couple of days or offering them something to keep them engaged.
Yeah, I love
It's
that.
some people get stagnant, and there's a lot of people who do groomer or stylist burnout. And burnout is not just on the job, it's at home as well. If there's a problem at work, there's something external going on, and people have a hard time checking that at the door.
That
And
makes sense. I mean, it seems
coaching,
like
we even do it with the students. If they come in a different mood in their mind frame, it's go back tomorrow. Because if
right.
your mind's not in the game, you're working on a being, and that creature is going to pick up on that. So if your mind isn't on the game, isn't on the table, go home. I don't need you here. You need
No,
to fix whatever is going on and come back fresh.
that's right. Okay. I like that. I mean, a lot of someone's mood may correlate to what's going on outside of their job or their career,
Yeah.
and a lot of somebody's drive correlates to what are they incentivized by, and if they're not incentivized by the goals that you guys have set to get together, then the goals need to change.
Yeah. Goals
Absolutely.
change. They have to change.
No, I love that. Okay. Well, let's wrap it here. Dara, I am so grateful for you coming on. You have so much to teach everyone here. I love, love, love the insights of you bringing what works outside of the industry into the industry. We need more people like that looking out rather than just looking in.
Yeah.
I'm curious if people want to reach out to you or get a hold of you or even, join your grooming academy. What is the best way to get a hold of you?
You can go through, we've got a couple websites with wholepetnh.com and then my own daraforleo.com. That one's launched. That's where all the business and mentorships are. Lori is the best person, Lori Belanger, to contact for the school. And we have Jennifer Thurston's our Dean of Students. So she takes care of all of the students, all of the questions for that. And I know you met Chrissy Newmeyer Smith. She is our Dean of Academics. So anybody interested in teaching or looking to grow into the education, you can reach out to Chrissy and she'll take care of you and get you set up with an interview.
Amazing, amazing. Well, Dara, thanks, Dara. Sorry, thank you again. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you,
It has been
Alex.
a pleasure.
It was nice meeting you.
Super nice meeting you. And that's the pod.